We're standing in the Docker graveyard, and I suppose the Docker graveyard would be regarded as a Catholic graveyard, although there is mixed burials in here. We have Quakers and all sorts buried in here. The graveyard the area was given to the Catholic population in the year 1800 by William Brownlow, and then it was extended by Charles Brownlow, and he gave them the area then for the Catholic chapel. This would have been where the very first Catholic church was. It would later become the first Catholic school in Lurgan. We have an extensive amount of Commonwealth graves in here from First World War and Second World War. But today, one special, particular grave we've come to honour, which is the grave of Jim Haughey, who had fought fascism after the First World War in Spain, and he fought fascism in the Second World War, and unfortunately was killed in the Second World War in the Canadian Air Force. Jim Haughey was born in Lurgan. He was born in North Street, over that direction, and he would have went to school in St Peter's School, and he would have run about in this graveyard, because it was quite common for the children in North Street to play in the graveyard here. Well, I think Jim Haughey was a very, very, very brave man and sacrificed his life, and you knew he was sacrificing his life by the wonderful poem that he wrote when he predicted his own life. He wrote the poem 3 days before he died, and of course his father was killed in the Second World War as well. It was a U-boat that sunk his father, so he was engaged in hunting the U-boats. So he's a great role model for all people, you know. I think is certainly my hero.
My name's Jim Haughey. I'm the Secretary of Craigavon Trades Council, and our Trades Council was contacted a number of years ago by a historian from Belfast who was doing a bit of research on volunteers from the Spanish Civil War who fought in the Craigavon area, and one of them was Jim Haughey. And out of that there was a pamphlet produced. We've turned into a book, and it charts the life of Jim Haughey from when he left Lurgan when he was 18 and fought in Spain and fought in the Second World War. Yeah, I think Jim was a bit of an adventurer even at a young age. Story goes that his mother went up to wake him one morning and there was a note in the bed to say he was off to London to seek his fortune. And while he was in London, he got friendly with two Spanish guys in the Basque region. And in early 1938, when Franco really was winning the Spanish Civil War, the two guys decided that they wanted to go home and fight on the Republican side against Franco and try and save Spain. And Jim decided to go with them. He travelled to Paris. He took ill in Paris. The two guys went on, but he decided he was going to follow them. He walked across the Pyrenees, which was the only way into Spain at the time, and he joined the International Brigades. Following training, he was posted to the front, was heavily involved in the Battle of the Ebro, which was a Republican offensive to try and reverse the gains that the nationalist side had, and unfortunately he was captured. Part of that capture, he was lined up to be shot. Had asked the captain could he give his confession to a priest before he was shot, and the captain decided to show him a bit of mercy, and him and his colleagues, and he wasn't shot, but he was shipped off to prison. Went to San Pedro prison. There were horrific conditions in San Pedro prison, and Jim was there for quite a few months. In fact, as well as being the last Irish volunteer to join the International Brigades, he is one of the last volunteers to leave Spain, and is almost certainly the last volunteer from Northern Ireland to leave Spain in 1938 or 1939. And instead of coming home, he went to Canada, worked a bit in Canada, and in 1941 he joined the Canadian Air Force, decided to come back and continue his fight against fascism, against Hitler and Mussolini in the Second World War, and was posted to the south of England, and unfortunately died in a plane crash in 1943, in fact the 12th of September, and it's exactly 80 years from today since he died, and that's why we're commemorating his life and remembering his unfortunate death. As part of our Trades Council, we have lectures in Jim's name. We try and promote his story as much as we can. in order to remind people that the fight in the Second World War and the fight in Spain is not over, and that it continues and it continues today, and we should all be part of it. So we have the booklet printed again, and we'll be circulating that. Unite the Union has very generously sponsored the publication of the book, so we'll be circulating that round and at every opportunity to share Jim's story. In 1943, when he died in the plane crash, him and four of his Canadian Air Force colleagues perished. His 4 colleagues are buried in Devon, but there was a decision made that he would be transported back home, and he was brought home and buried in the Daher Cemetery here in the family plot, and that plot then was subsequently acknowledged as a military plot by the Canadian Air Force, and there's a headstone recounting his time, or acknowledging his time with the Canadian Air Force.
So I came to Lurgan today. I had noticed that the Craigavon Trades Council were commemorating one of the International Brigaders who we hold in such high esteem, Jim Haughey from Lurgan in County Armagh. We're all very familiar with the story of Jim Haughey, the Lion of Lurgan, someone whose name resonates across the world internationally, way beyond the realms of Lurgan. He's famous across Madrid, and indeed in anywhere where they commemorate the International Brigades who fought fascism. So it was a privilege and honour to come tonight to commemorate the memory of the great Lion of Lurgan, Jim Haughey. So going forward, what we would like to do is we would like to do more commemorative work on Jim Haughey and other of those maybe less renowned international brigaders. The work that we do in Phoebe is to attempt to leave a memorial cairn. We built memorial cairns across the 32 counties of Ireland, trying to commemorate all those international brigaders from right across the island who fought for freedom and against fascism between 1936 and 1938. So we would like to link in with, particularly with Craigavon Trades Council, who have been keeping the memory of Jim Haughey alive, and do a little bit more work with them and integrate it into the national work that we do.
So Jim would have been a cousin of my father's, and because Daddy, he grew up in Brownlow Terrace, but they moved later to Lower North Street, just below where Jim was born. So we heard this story many years, through my father or whatever, and they were very proud of Jim's legacy, really. And I think listening to the lecture tonight, obviously that legacy is more important today than it ever was. Well, I have to say, a number of years ago, I previously just retired recently from BBC, and I had asked, I had actually put in a programme proposal because I think there's a fascinating story here. But what I gleaned from it was that Jim started out as just looking for a bit of crack and going to London and a bit of adventure or whatever, but obviously it was who he encountered in London that he, became so interested in the whole movement and everything. So it is that thing of who you meet and when you meet them and everything, but he obviously had great courage, and that's something that we're extremely proud of.
This is Jim Haughey's beautiful poem that he wrote 3 days before he was killed. I think that it will come somewhen, somewhere, in shattering crash or roaring sheet of flame, in the green blanket sea, choking for air, amid the bubbles, transient as my name. Sometimes a second throw decides the game. Winner takes all, and there is no replay. Indifferent earth and sky breathed on the same. I scatter my last chips and I go my way. The years I might have had I throw away. They only lead to winter's barren pain. Their loss must bring no tears from those who stay, for spring, however spent, comes not again. When peace descends once more like gentle rain, mention my name, if you must, as one who knew the terms, slay or be slain, and thought the bargain was both good and just.